Okay, hello everybody. My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. What's going on? Thank you all for joining. Um, this week we have a bit of a theme to the stream. We're going to be talking about what I call outrage posting. So, I'm not sure if there's actually like an official name for this or whatever, but this is what I call it, outrage posting. And then also later in the stream, we're going to take a look at a video by Matt Walsh. And I'm sorry to subject you guys to the existential terror that is Matt Walsh. Feel free to leave at that point. Sometimes, here on my live streams, we have to delve into the deep, dark, fearful unknown and face the dread and the worst that humanity has to offer. Anyway, so before we do all that, let's take a look at what we've got here. So these are our dueling dragons, of course. I think we're getting kind of close to finishing this. I'm getting a little, well, first off, the reason why is because I'm getting a little old, like tired of working on it because we've been like drawing these things for like the last like 5 streams and shit, so they're getting a little old. Um, but it's coming along pretty good, I think, right? I am slowly learning how to use the Kitra here to better effect, although see, it looks okay when you zoom out like that. Like this is the size it's gonna be when you see it on screen. It's just when you zoom in close and shit. it looks shitty. But I think we're doing a better job here, so we'll just keep that going. Um, okay, so let's jump right into it, right? Let me just set this opacity, set the size here at around 3. There we go. Maybe a little bit bigger. That's too big. This is one thing I don't like about this program. Like in Photoshop, you can just type in the size that you want. In here, it's like they make you use these sliders, which is like not very accurate, but that's okay. Um, so what exactly, do I mean by outrage posting, right? Well, so far in our series on the alt-right here, we've talked about some of the major themes that that you see going through far right movements and stuff like that. We've talked about. Oh, wait, is that on the wrong? Okay, so this is the right layer. Okay, so I should be seeing something here, right? Oh, I got to turn off the pressure. That's another thing. It's like every time you do this, you have to like go in and I got to turn off the pressure and all this other baloney, and it's like getting tired of that shit. Yep. Um, I am slowly learning how to use this. Anyway, so we've talked about some of the major themes that alt-right people and far-right, extreme right-wingers like to talk about things like race and IQ, um, the desire for a white homeland, in particular in the Pacific Northwest of the United States or whatever. That always kind of got me. It's like, yeah, we want a white, ethno state, and they choose like the best land in the country for it. It's like you entitled motherfuckers. Like the thing is, there is plenty of unoccupied land left on the planet. You can go buy an island somewhere, or you can go to Antarctica. There's like an entire fucking continent down there. But nope, they want like the primo real estate in like Portland, Oregon and shit. You know, Stingy motherfuckers. Anyway, um, and we also talked about that. We talked about the use of memes and like edgy racist humor as a way to like desensitize people and recruit people and to like introduce these sort of racist ideas to vulnerable groups, right? um, and so there's this phenomenon that I like to call outrage posting, which is very much a tool of the alt-right and just far right movements in general, right? Hey, Lewis the Hedgehog, how you doing? And it looks like we got another bot, Winnie Moselle. Are you a bot, Winnie? I don't know why. Last stream that we had, a whole bunch of bots showed up. I wonder if there's a reason for that. Anyway, so I like to call it outrage posting, right? So what do I mean exactly when I say outrage posting? Well, um, for those of you at home, have any of you actually read 1984 by George Orwell? I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. You know, it's a pretty famous book. They used to make us read it in high school back in the day, so I know, most people out there have probably read it, at least in that capacity. But if you haven't read it, it's actually, it gets quoted a lot and stuff like that when it comes to discussions on politics and that kind of thing. And it's actually a really, really good and, well written and profound book that is, seems to be more um, poignant as time goes on. As the United States, in our country, as we sort of slide towards fascism, you know, which at this point I think it's kind of like just a matter of time. Basically, the next Republican president that gets elected, right? Pretty sure that spells the end of democracy in the United States, at least as we know it. Um, but there's a part in the book, if you haven't read it, here's a quick summary. There is in the book, the world is divided up in between several very large kind of super states, right? Which are they're not even superpowers in the way that we think of superpowers, the United States, China, England, stuff like that. They're more super states, whereas like, there's like three different states. There's Oceania, East Asia, and Eurasia, and they take up um, you know, essentially continents, right? And they're constantly at war with each other. And the main antagonist is a guy named Winston Smith, and he lives in the state of Oceania, which is the United States, North America, England, and parts of Western Europe, right? England in this alternate universe is called Airstrip One, so it's like everything's highly militarized, right? And these governments they never really actually say it, but it's sort of implied that they're all in cahoots with each other, even though that they're supposed to be at war, but they're kind of sort of not really at war. Like and then there's even a part in the book where all of the they suddenly change who they're at war with, and they have to like do all of their propaganda and replace signs and shit like that. So it's sort of implied that it's like, okay, they're just really in cahoots with each other this whole time, right? Anyway, so part of there's his daily life. The main guy's name's Winston Smith. Part of his daily life is there's a let's see, let's make that a little longer, right? There is a ritual sort of almost called the 2 minutes hate, right? And if you haven't read the book, there's actually a really good movie adaptation that came out in 1984 with I think it's William John Hurt, I think, as Winston Smith, and there's a couple other famous people in it too. Anyway, so in the 2 minutes hate, they basically get together into a theater. They get all of the lower party members, because it's sort of modeled on the Soviet Union, right? In that way, like the Soviet um, version of like their political party. It's sort of modeled on that. And so you have inner party members and outer party members, right? And the outer party members are sort of like, they do all the grunt work, right? Anyway, so why is this thing? See, I just want to make this. How do I fucking? I've got to figure out how to adjust this shit. Blend, blur, smudge engine, color smudge engine. Anyway, um, and there's a way that so what they do is they have what's called the 2 minutes hate, right? Where they get together in this theater, and on the screen they just sort of play images of their um, you know, enemies of the state, right? In particular, a guy named Emmanuel Goldstein, and everybody in the audience just sort of gets up and screams at it and yells and shouts and calls it names. And in the movie, it's actually really cool. They're like throwing shit at the screen and stuff like that. And in the end of the book, they describe how it's sort of like, it takes over your mind, and it's a method by which they brainwash people, right? In the book, and it's pretty poignant, right? So basically, um, this sort of serves a couple of purposes, right? In the book, in the novel, it allows people to express their pent up anger, which they normally may, if it's not directed in the right way, in one way or another, express towards the state, first off. And it also allows people to kind of find a little bit of camaraderie, right? Um, there we go, right? Because the thing is that hate is a very effective emotion in order to recruit people to your cause, right? Even more so than one would say love or pride, right? Something like that, or the general tendency for people to want to help each other. Why is this thing? Oh, I'm using the wrong brush. See, God damn it, I gotta remember these things. Like I have this color selector thing, but then I'm choosing the wrong brush. I gotta go back to the actual brush. There we go. Now this is gonna be super light. Okay, yeah, that's better. So, yeah, and it's giving them a common foe to unite against. And sort of when you do that, you sort of allow people to project all of their problems that they're experiencing onto this enemy, right? So if your life is shitty, like you lost your job a few years ago, haven't been able to make the kind of money that you want to make, your wife is nagging you because you're a loser, your kids are little punks, whatever, blah 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 blah. Your house is about to get foreclosed on, and then this sort of exercise allows you to blame all of these problems. It's like, well, on an external force. So it's like, yeah, well, if it wasn't for those, darn illegal immigrants or whatever, coming and stealing all the jobs, I'd be employed. And this is very much a tool. That's kind of what outrage posting is. It's essentially um, using social media in order to get your 2 minutes hate on, right? And it's very much a tool for far right movements in order to, you know, not just recruit people, but also kind of keep their people engaged, right? By giving them something to hate, to give them those sort of daily reminders that, hey, these are the people you hate, these are the people you stand against, you know. And it's not always like because there's different kind of types of this. Like there's posts where people just go completely bananas and they post stuff and like, look at this guy, fuck this guy, or something like that. There's other ones where it'll just be like they're just making fun of somebody, and then what ends up happening is that people take those posts, these outrage posts, is why, and they create memes off of them. So like we talked about last time, the memes get around, and then somebody, will target, like the actual person in the story or in the meme or whatever, and it may go end up going a little too far. Maybe those people get doxxed, something like that. You know what I mean? And it has the potential, first off, to result in damage to real people's lives. First off, that's one thing. It can actually lead to violence. It can lead to harassment, and maybe one of these people, after they get doxxed and their information's out there, somebody takes it a little too far, and you never know what might happen with movements that are filled with highly armed, unstable individuals like this, and they kind of know it. It's sort of like a very subtle. It's like basically like a rape threat almost. This idea that there'll be hundreds of people out there like gunning for you, and you don't know when you're safe, and you start getting like harassed and stuff, and people emailing pictures of your house to you and shit, from outside, sending you that message that, hey, we can get you anytime we want, shit like that. Like, this is what it can lead to, number one. So, and it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. And the problem with it, right, is that it's also extremely popular, right? Extremely popular because this is what social media algorithms thrive on, right? This kind of, more so than even like the positive shit, because the positive things too thrive in algorithms. When people go and they go, oh, these are these cooking tips, or they put like feel good stories, like, oh, here's a news story about how some firefighters saved a kitten, or something like that, right? Those are things that, yeah, they do well in the algorithm too, right? Stories like, or especially after a national disaster happens, then someone will post stories about, like, how, like, a room full of people got saved or something like that, or these people got rescued, or here's a rich guy that donated a bunch of money so that poor diabetic kids after the hurricane can get their medicine, shit like that. Those are feel good stories, and everyone's like, oh, that's great. Those don't have the same kind of staying power though as outrage posts. You know, people like old people and little old ladies and school teachers and shit are the ones that pass around the feel good stories, right? Those are the stories that you'll get when you're like at work, and HR wants to do an uplifting thing, and they'll send out this, especially if it's like something that relates to your industry, right? Like, if you work at if you work at like a food sort of place, maybe like a restaurant or something, or whatever, and then someone's donating food that's like, see, you're making a difference, shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of stuff that goes around there. Those don't really have, like I said, though, they don't have the same lifespan or staying power as outrage posts, right? People don't share that stuff around as much because it feels better to be angry. It simply does. It feels better. It feels better to be angry when you have a clearly defined target. When you sit down and you get that sort of righteous anger going, right? And the social media companies of Facebook and Twitter and you know Instagram, all that shit, they know it. They know it. They know that that's what gets engagements. And so stuff like this gets prioritized. If you like one of them, then they suggest to you other stuff, right? Um, so it's very much, that's exactly that sort of 2 minutes hate kind of thing where someone will sit down and dig up, like, for example, the most ridiculous news stories they can find about, their target, right? News stories or social media posts or images or, videos, stuff like that. Anything that makes their target look bad, right? Um, so I need to find, you know what we need to do? We need to find a smudge tool. So this is a blender tool, but I want a blender knife edge. Let's try that. Let's see what this, oh wow, that looks really weird. Look at that thing. It's all like, all right. See, I need a smudge. So this little thing here is a blender thing, but it doesn't seem to be smudging it. So let's see, does it smudge? Yeah, it smudges a little bit. It's a little, God, I wish it wasn't so funky though. Look at that. I wish that was more like, I wish that didn't bend around, but it seems to be, see, that's smudging, but it looks like shit. God, I wonder if there's something I could do about that. Um, let's see, what else they got in here? So yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about, right? And it's very similar to memes, the way that very similar to the way memes work, right? Um, they're just like memes. They're a way that you can a very low effort way of communicating a lot of data, right? You could basically craft, a meme in such a way that let's try that one, in such a way that it can communicate like an entire article's worth of information in one image, right? Sort of like that, but outrage posting is more about the reaction that you get. Ah, this is what I want. That's what I'm talking about. Look at that. Okay. Because I want to blend, I want to smudge these things. Like the other tool just sort of blended them together and it just blended the outlines, but I want to actually smudge it like this. This is actually perfect. Okay. It's exactly what I was looking for. I got to remember that one. Right. Like outrage posting is more about the people in the comments section, right? So for example, someone will go and they'll post a video on YouTube of black people fighting in a restaurant, right? And they might put in the title something a little baity, or sometimes more often than not, they won't put anything in the title. It'll just say, fight in restaurant, blah, blah, blah. And the people in the comments then go to town on it. And before you can, count to five, a bunch of racists and white nationalists show up and start, doing their 2 minutes hate on it. Right. And you used to see a lot of this, like you used to see a lot of this when it came to politicians sort of in the past, right? Like before social media was super huge back in the early aughts or whatever. This was more about politicians, right? And famous people, you know, before we had platforms like, Facebook and Twitter and stuff where and before everybody had a video camera built into their phone, like a high, so that they can just record like every single fucking thing they do in their lives and put it on the internet for, validation, right? Before that was really a thing. This was more about famous people. It was more about, some football player would beat up his wife or something, and then it would get posted and shared around on bulletin boards and forums and things. And people would be like, this is so horrible, blah, 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 blah. And then, racists would jump in there because the guy, if the guy happened to be black, they'd jump in there and do their thing. Right. And then all through the Obama era, it was very much just like every single thing Obama did was a subject of an outrage post in one way or another. He wears a tan suit, they go crazy. He bows to the Saudi royal king or whatever, people lose their fucking minds, right? He eats some fucking fancy mustard on a sandwich, right? People go nuts over this, right? That was very much a thing. And then, here's the thing about it, right? I'm not going to say that people on the left don't do this either, because they do. They do. People get mad when, for example, J.K. Rowling says something transphobic. People go crazy, and the sort of the same phenomenon happens, right? What you don't see on the left as much are just random, normal, ordinary people being targeted. At least that's something that I don't notice. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it does happen, but I don't usually see just ordinary people like um you don't tend to see in leftist circles like, oh, here's a video of a bunch of stupid right wingers doing something. You know what I mean? Like it still very much tends to be focused on either, say, for example, it'll be like they'll do it for like protesters at a MAGA rally or something and be like, oh, look at the stupid shit these people are saying. That's one thing that you'll hear from people on the left. But they don't really just target like normal, ordinary people the same way that the right wing does, right? Because that's definitely a thing that you get from the right wing, from the alt right in particular. Um, a good case study of how outrage posting evolves into memes and then evolves into more outrage posting and then becomes later on part of the narrative and political language of the far right is the example of Big Red. Okay, so I don't know if you guys remember who Big Red is. She's a meme now, unfortunately, but she was a feminist um, in Canada, I believe, right? And what was her name? God, her name is Shanty Binks. Okay. Um, she was doxxed years and years and years ago. So this is like 2011 when this happened. Kind of wonder what happened to Big Red since then, but anyway, and what it was is that she was at you know, at an event in Toronto, right, at the University of Toronto, and somebody made a video, and I'm gonna go ahead and show you this video here. Let me just open that. Let's make that full screen. So this is the original Big Red video, right? And I'm sure you've seen this woman here before. This is who I'm talking about, right? Shanty Briggs. And of course, that's what they call her because she has, this like super bright red hair, which was really popular. I don't know. Are the kids still dyeing their hair super bright colors like this? I am so out of touch with what young people do nowadays. She's probably my age though. That's the thing. You know, she's probably in her late 30s at this point, and early 40s like me. So anyway, this is the original Big Red video. Let's go ahead and we're not gonna watch this entire thing because it's 12 minutes long, but this is the video that they post. It's called MRAs and Feminists Arguing at University of Toronto at an MRA event. So she basically came out, a bunch of like MRAs, sort of men's rights, like, um, kind of incel like people are speaking at this event and she's protesting it. And somebody posted this video to a blog. Um, it was called, what was it called? It was it's a blog called "Shut the Fuck Up Everything" is what it was called on Tumblr. So this got posted on Tumblr back in 2011 or whatever, right? And it sort of just evolved into like a super meme, phenomenon. So we'll watch a little bit of this, but I'm not going to watch the whole thing, obviously.
MRAs should be, if you shut the fuck up and let me read my list, there's the fucking proof.
So I obviously can't like.
So, number one, shut the fuck up for a second.
So I can't.
Feminists do not want you to lose custody of your children. The assumption that women are naturally better caregivers is part of patriarchy.
See, she's right about that. Here's the thing. She's absolutely right about all this, but I think it was actually, was it this one right here that became the meme? Like one, fine, there's like one still from this that became the meme, right? She's actually correct. That's the thing. If you actually watch this video and listen to what she says, she's correct about all this stuff. But it was, the problem is that she was fodder, easy fodder for the right wing. Let's watch a little bit more. Just to it's only 26 seconds. Let's watch like maybe a minute of this. I don't want to go on too long.
Of patriarchy. Feminists do not like commercials in which bumbling dads mess up the laundry and competent wives have to bustle in and fix it. The assumption that women we're working on it and you guys are trying to dismantle it. But
yeah, see, she's absolutely right. So here's the thing about it, right? So we don't know what happened before this. We don't know if she, if they were arguing before this, if they're calling her names. We don't know any of that stuff. All we know is she's obviously angry, right? And her performance is, admittedly very over the top. She's pretty pissed off, right? And they kind of, took this and they made it into, this was posted around like a lot. Let's turn this off. right? Because I'm not here to make fun of Mrs. Binks here. That's not what this is about. But just wanted to kind of give you an example of what I mean by outrage posting. So that video was on that blog, Shut the Fuck Up Everything, was posted, and it got 750,000 views, right, in the first 2 years, and 23,000 comments. Okay, so for, just some random blog on Tumblr, it's like a shitload, right? And then it was also uploaded to Reddit, and it got 26,000 votes uploaded before it was archived, right? So then this sort of gets posted around. It ends up on a blog called Man Boobs, right? Which is now called We Hunted the Mammoth. And if you've never had the displeasure of interacting with the MRM movement, this is kind of like one of their main sites, right? Um, I think wasn't Rolo Tomasi on We Hunted the Mammoth? I don't know. It's one of the main ones that's been around for a very long time, and it's, yeah, filled with all kinds of ridiculous, vile MRM bullshit, right? Vile as fuck. And so it gets posted there, and then it gets spread around, and you know, then people start making memes out of it. So basically, the first phase when it comes to this stuff, right? When it comes to what these sorts of movements that ultimately result in people being turned into memes and then being like harassed and organized harassment campaigns, shit like that. The first step is this sort of outrage posting where they just sort of spread everything around and be like, look at this crazy woman, right? All that stuff. It hits up all the different social media things and ends up on 4chan, on 8chan, shit like that, right? All these different places, people go crazy over it, and spreading basically hate and lies, and then people take it a little too far. Then they start turning it into memes. Then they start harassing everything, and that's what happened here. All of these different like remixes got made, you know, and then on Encyclopedia Dramatica, I don't know if you've ever heard of that. They made an entry called Big Red, right, dedicated to this, you know. And then somebody posted her face to a subreddit called Punchable Faces on Reddit, which I'm not sure if that's around anymore. And it just sort of, after that point, takes on a life of its own. And then people end up getting doxxed, you know. And I'm sure that this woman has probably suffered a lot because of these fucking assholes that just because some random fucking douchebag on the internet, you know, posted a video of her talking, when the things she actually said, if you actually listen to that video, it's like she's correct about a lot of the shit. It's just the way that she says it is, let's do smearing. The way that she says it is, easily conducive to, um, damn it, this is not the right one. Let's do, uh, easily conducive to being made fun of, I guess is the way that you could say, right? So yeah, kind of fucked up. Let's see here, smear length. I want it to be longer, right? Wait a minute, something's wrong. Now it's not. Did I choose the wrong one again? It was this one, right? Blender Basic, right? I thought that was the one that I was looking for here, because now the shit's not working. Now it's not blending very well. Pretty sure it was this, right? Blender Basic. Let's go up here. Let's just do can I just go back to, what is this? Reload the brush preset. Okay, let's try that. Even though that's way too big. Okay. There. Yeah, that's a little bit better. I still need this to be longer when I smudge it. it's still too short. It's got to go like the brushstroke needs to be longer. I got to figure that shit out here. Slowly learning how to use this program. It's still like taking me a long time to do stuff that I could normally do inside of Photoshop really quickly, but whatever. So yeah, let's see, we're at 11:36. So I do want to take a little bit here. Let's talk a little more. So social media thrives on this content, right? This is, you know, kind of how a lot of them have sort of modeled their like businesses after this idea that people are going to be spreading around viral content. And Twitter and Facebook and Reddit and all these other people, they don't really give a shit what that viral content is. They don't care if it's feel good stuff. They don't care if it's somebody putting a recipe to bake cookies, or if it's like, you know, someone being harassed. It doesn't really matter to them because they make money either way, right? Which is really fucked up. Something really should be done about that. And admittedly, this used to be a much worse problem um, back then than it is now. I mean, it's still pretty bad though. The shit still happens a lot, especially on Reddit. Um, you can, for example, get kicked off of Facebook and Twitter now if they catch you doing it. If you start harassing people and then you get caught, you can get suspended and stuff like that. But still, it's sort of like fishing, right? It's sort of like when the cop pulls you over for speeding and like everybody else is speeding, and it's like, well, he can't pull everybody over. They can only just catch the people they can catch. So there's still, it's really not that difficult to find these types of posts on social media, even today, right? Um, and because of this, a lot of influencers, I guess you would say, have sort of made this their business model, right? So you have, for example, on YouTube, entire channels where all they do is outrage post. Channels where all they do is they just find videos of people doing stupid shit, people that they, disagree with politically, and all they do is post like, "Hey, look, here's videos of black people brawling in the streets. Here's a video of a black guy like, you know, robbing a store and getting justice." That's another one too, where it's like, "Oh, here's a guy like committing crime, whatever, and getting caught by the cops or getting his ass beat." And it just so happens that they're always posting pictures. Whenever they post stuff like that, the perpetrator's always black or Latino or something, right? That's another thing. And here's the thing, they'll do it in such a way to where they can deny the racism. They'll say like, "Well, I'm not posting this because the guy's black. I'm posting it because it's a fight." You know, um, World Star Hip Hop is a website that that this kind of shit thrives there, right? World Star Hip Hop. All it is just videos and videos and videos of black people fighting over and over and over and over. Black people fighting, and then racists coming on and hate piling onto it, and fucking outrage posting this shit over and over and over. Entire sites like that, right? Um, and that's really like you know pretty. It's vile, but this is how people make their money, right? You get a little bit of this too when it comes to things like Gamergate and stuff like that, and like Comicsgate, and for example, all of those YouTube channels that spent like an entire year posting like 50 billion videos about how the Captain Marvel movie sucked and all that other things. They hate it and all that stuff, but they can't shut the fuck up about it and keep talking about it. Like that's sort of a subset of this, where you get like these toxic fandoms that have been infiltrated by, right wing movements and the alt right and stuff like that. You know, uh, And there's a reason for that too. It's because people that are in fandoms like that tend to be vulnerable as well. They tend to be young, usually vulnerable. Usually they don't really know a lot about right-wing politics, that kind of thing, and they also tend to join these fandoms because it gives them a sense of community. So they're less likely to leave if a couple of racists show up or whatever and just start making and remember, it's always a joke. That's the other thing. It's always a joke at first, right? And this sort of extends to this. Like I said before, it's easy to claim it's not racist when you're just saying, "Hey, all I'm doing is posting videos of criminals doing criminal stuff," right? You're the one who's calling it's racist. Oh, it's not my fault that they're all black or whatever. It's like, yeah, okay, it's fucking totally fucking racist, right? Racist on purpose like that. Um, so you see a lot of that on YouTube, right? And it's not just that, but it's not just like social media influencers either. It's not just people on YouTube and that kind of thing. It's like actual news corporations. Like this is their business model now. Like essentially this is all that Fox News and One American Network, like this is all they do now is provide fuel for outrage posting, right? Um, like Tucker Carlson, that's his entire model is to like comment on shit in order to piss people off, right? Um, okay, Blender Basic, there we go. Do I have to reset this every time? See, now it's not blending as much, but let me open that. Let's just reset. Let's try that again. Whoa. That's something I don't like about this program. It seems like whenever I adjust the brushes, yeah, see now it's blending better. Like whenever I switch a brush, I have to go back and like readjust it to the way, I want it. It's not saving it after I do this. That's kind of a pain in the ass, but I don't know, maybe I might just bite the bullet and get Photoshop. I just don't want to have to pay for it. But if we were using Photoshop, I'd be done with the shit by now. Seriously, I would have finished it like last week because it's taken me longer to do stuff in this other program. Um. Anyway, so yeah, let's take a look at Tucker Carlson here on the internet. Let's see here. Let's open up this laptop window and let's make this a little bigger. This is Tucker Carlson at Fox News, right? And if you notice here, these are the latest clips that we've got from Tucker Carlson, right? Every single thing that this guy says is basically outrage fuel, right? Let's just look at the titles. We won't even click on any of these because I don't really feel like listening to Tucker Carlson or his fucking stupid voice today. Right, but let's just take a look at this, right? Complaining about NPR. Okay, the publicly funded media giant has changed completely. It's unrecognizable, right? Here we go, talking about Viagra as a potential treatment for COVID. So COVID denying, vaccine, anti-vaxxer shit. That's all very, very big on the right wing nowadays. That's like they've kind of identified that as a way to radicalize people. The anti-vax movement. They're all in on that. And yeah, so right. So you'll see a lot of that shit. Another thing about vaccines, right? Another thing on NPR. It's all basically like every fucking thing, here we go. Why are we still talking about this? Tucker Carlson asked why American leadership and the liberal media is obsessed with the January 6th riots. See, everything that he says, dude, it's all outrage posting shit. Here's another one. There's where I don't know if you saw this, where he like basically fucking completely humiliates Ted Cruz because Ted Cruz had the audacity to say that the January 6th thing was a terrorist attack, which it actually was. And Tucker Carlson just rakes him over the coals with it, treats him like a complete little bitch, you know. So this is yeah, outrage, professional outrage posting here, right? Let's take a look at Laura Ingram. I've got Laura Ingram up too. Laura Ingram is essentially the exact same fucking thing as Tucker Carlson, right? So here we got complaining about Governor Whitmer in Michigan, right? Here's another anti fucking vaccine thing, liberal high court justices regurgitate bonus COVID quote facts unquote, right? Complaining about the economy, complaining about pop culture, right? Complaining about the economy again, complaining that January 6th is still a thing. Oh, why do those damn liberals keep talking about January 6th? Why they keep talking about when we try to take over the fucking country and like reverse an election, you know? Talking about Hamilton, right? Oh, okay. Yeah. Totally not racist. So this is basically, what the right wing does. And this is, you can't get more, I guess, mainstream right than Fox News. That's what Fox News is. Fox News is the mainstream right now, right? I'm not going to do this, but I bet, I need to make that smaller. Let's make this smaller. I bet if we were to go to One America Network or OANN or something like that, it would be the exact same shit. And I'm not going to do that right now because fuck those people. Right? But this has basically become what, you know, this has become what right-wing discourse is all about now. You know, it's all about outrage. All of it. It's all about outrage. It's all about getting those outrage clicks, right? It's all about making people angry so that they come back and, you know, buy your book, right? And watch your fucking videos and buy from your sponsors, right? This is how they've decided. Marker chisel smooth. Huh. Nah, let's not do that. I'll experiment later. I don't really want to experiment right now. Let's try just basic. That's all I want. Basic. I don't want any. I'm a basic bitch here. What can I say? Right. It wasn't always like that. That's the thing, right? Um, in the past, you were able to get actual somewhat decent political discourse from the right wing in this country, right? What they were saying would usually be bullshit, right? But sometimes you would get some deep analysis here and there. You had things like Crossfire. Tucker Carlson, for example, started on a show called Crossfire, right? On CNN, actually, you know? So it's not like it isn't something that they ever, never, ever did, right? It's just now they've decided like, hey, that looks bad. This is how we can make more money, right? And it's fucking sad and disturbing and shitty, you know, because it's radicalizing the country is what it's doing, right? It's turning, um, it's turning people against each other, right? Because every single day they get their daily dose of hate, you know. Every single day the algorithm is feeding them, you know, don't remember this is the people that you're against. These are the people who are going to destroy the country, right? These are the people that stole the election, blah blah blah. They're forcing your kids to wear masks, right? They're forcing them to learn from home and they're not actually learning anything, which actually kind of might be true. Right? They don't learn anything from home, but that's a different discussion, right? But still, they're stifling your children by making them wear masks and stuff like that. The pandemic's all planned, blah 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 blah. It's all a conspiracy, stuff like that, and keep coming back for it, keep coming back for it, right? And so before you know it, it's like, dude, now we have what was it like 50% of Republicans that think that that violence is justified now in order to you know, against the left, right? Is that what it was? There was a poll that just came out not that long ago talking about that. And I think it was 50% of Republicans say that they might have to use violence in order to quote save the country and shit. You know, this was not that's the thing. This was not a problem before social media. This was not a problem before the internet. back in the day. You didn't have 50% of Republicans saying, ready for a revolution, right? Um, 20, 30 years ago. No, no, those were the insane people, right? The fucking crazy hillbillies, the people that were in militias and shit like that. And it was because they never got any airtime. They had no way of spreading their mass fucking delusion around in order to recruit people and radicalize people. It wasn't possible. They were confined essentially. And now, thanks to the internet, they're not confined anymore. And that's why this is important that we talk about this stuff, right? It's important that we try to identify it, and it's important that, we encourage there to be safeguards, right? And yeah, it's very delicate. It's a delicate line because you don't want to be taking away people's free speech, right? Because you have the ability, you have the right to post any kind of wacky, ridiculous bullshit you want as long as it doesn't hurt people, right? That's the line. As long as it doesn't hurt people. When does it start? When does it cross that line, right? That's the hard part. You have to determine like when does this become no longer free speech but damaging speech, but dangerous speech, right? Because we've always had laws against dangerous speech in the country forever. You're not allowed to, there's been laws against sedition, for example. That's one thing during time of war, stuff like that. Not allowed to do that, right? The classic example, you can't scream fire in a crowded theater, right? When your speech results in people, you know, um, basically, harm, directly or even indirectly to other people, right? I think we're all kind of starting to hit that consensus that, for example, anti-vax stuff crosses that line. We're all starting to kind of hit that, and even the social media companies have finally took that step. Now we need to push it a little farther, try to get them to start applying that towards far right-wing radicalization, you know, because they kind of do now when it's like the most blatant shit, you know, but still there's still far too much of it on there, and it needs to be fought against. It needs to be, and the thing is, if they're not going to do it, we need to do it, right? We're the people that have to enforce it, right? By exposing it ourselves, and that's sort of, it's kind of messed up because it's going to lead to higher polarization, right? But we're kind of at the point where you got to kind of decide what side are you going to be on, right? Are you on the side of freedom and democracy, or are you on the side of fascism? Because this is what we're up against. All of this ultimately leads to fascism, right? Leads to, groups, because that's the ultimate goal of all of these far right wing groups is they want to run the country the way they want to run it without any regard to marginalize people and their rights. That's what it is. They want to, um, ultimately, tyranny is all about money, really. That's really what it is. It's all about money, who controls, how much money you can get, blah, 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 stuff like that. And, maybe there's some ideology in there too, in order to appease the insane racist people, the racists and the misogynists and the those types, ultimately they're really just being used by the elite people like Tucker Carlson so that they can make more money. But that's a discussion for another time. Um, anyway, I want to take some time here. Let's see here. Let's open up my thing here, and I want to go over a couple of examples of these outrage posts, right? So here's one. This looks a little innocent until you read the title here. Triggered lots of leftards with this. Middle fingers on a little purple devil, right? This is a picture that I got off Twitter. Well, I didn't get it off Twitter. It was on Reddit, but it was from Twitter. Somebody in their big ass stupid fucking gas guzzler purposely parking in front of the electric car charger things at a mall or whatever on purpose just to be a dick, right? Perfect example of what I mean when I say outrage posting, right? What does this do? This is specifically designed, all this post does is make fun of who are you making fun of here? What? People who drive electric cars, right? For the life of me, I never understood why electric cars became politicized. You know, why? Why are electric cars such a fucking political thing? It's like, so you want to drive a car that doesn't use gas. Well, I thought they were saying gas was so fucking expensive nowadays, isn't it? Oh, gas is $4 a gallon or whatever. I mean, I don't know about the rest of the goddamn country, but gas has been $4 a gallon in California for a long time. I mean, it's mainly because of taxes, right? But I don't know. It's like by this point, you should be driving, if not an electric car, something that's a little more fuel efficient rather than your gigantic truck because it's not like gas prices are going to go down. You know, oil is like a fucking, finite commodity. It's going to run out one of these days. Anyway, but, the point is to piss off the liberals, triggered lots of libtards. That's the whole point of shit like this. This is exactly what I mean by outrage posting. You know, no other reason to post this except to get your 2 minutes hate on. So now that you can get your little endorphin rush by insulting people who drive electric cars because they're like, I don't know, socially conscious and probably make more money than you. Right. Let's see. Here's another one. This is Derek Chauvin. Here's Derek Chauvin being sentenced, because he went to jail for what, fucking life sentence or some shit, 20 years, something like that, for killing George Floyd, right? Stand up straight with your shoulders back, regardless of our opinions on the verdict. How many of us would show as much fortitude having been convicted of murder? This is, of course, on the Jordan Peterson subreddit, you know. So, kind of shows you how they're leaning. What's the point of, why would you post this? Here's a guy that has just he's going to go to prison, just got convicted of murder, right? The entire reason we know who Derek Chauvin is because he murdered someone when he easily could have not done so. All he literally had to do was move his knee, you know, a couple of fucking inches, and we wouldn't even know his name, right? He'd probably still be a cop at this point, beating people up and killing them, right? Exit that. Um, Another perfect target of the far right is anybody who talks about, you know, sex not equating to gender, right? So here's one. We're all different on the inside, right? Talking about age fluid people. And you'll notice inside of the silhouette of a grown adult who's a man, there's a little girl holding a flower or some shit or a heart or whatever. What is this? And then it says explain this nonsense. What is this point? What's the point of this here, right? It's to equate non-gender conforming people with pedophiles. That's what this is, right? It's to try to, so, it's a nice little coded meme here in order to try to call everyone who's trans or not anyone who's trans or just not a straight cis white, person as a pedophile, right? LGBT, you see it up here, LGBTQIAPCK. I think the what I is intersex, A is what's the A stand for? It's when you're asexual, I think, right? Stuff like that. They're putting it all together, right? Um, in order to hate on trans people. That's what it is. That's the entire thing. Get your 2 minutes hate on some trans people by calling them pedophiles. When in real life, trans people are not pedophiles, right? Trans people are usually adults. You have to be an adult in order to actually get surgery and actually go forward with the transition, right? I mean, you could be trans and still be a minor, but you know, you're not going to really be able to do anything to your body. You're not going to be able to begin transitioning until you turn 18 in most states. I think in some states you can take, hormone blockers and shit like that. So it's like there is no, so this equating trans people with pedophilia is complete and total bullshit of the highest order, right? But this is what they're doing anyway. It's all to hate people, folks. This is a perfect example. Let's see. Here's another one. Gas shortage. Democrats created gas shortage 2021 and Middle East conflicts to create a distraction to the 2020 stolen election. Stay focused, right? A way that outrage posting can kind of, I guess, distract, right? From, you can use it in order to blame shit that's going on your political opponents here, right? First off, this is the Gateway Pundit proof of fraudulent election. So this story is bullshit to begin with, right? They're posting a bullshit story and then using it as a way in order to direct hate towards their political enemies. This is classic outrage posting right here. Despicable, deplorable duck, huh? I'll have to look up more of what he says. First off, it's not true. Remember, the gas shortage was not created. Okay, Democrats did not create the gas shortage, right? The reason why there's a gas shortage is because of the pandemic, you know, and other factors as well. Okay, oil production stopped because there was not enough demand for it. Because last year people stayed home because of lockdowns, people working from home, stuff like that. They're driving less. Me, myself, personally, I think last year I drove like 300 miles for like the entire year, which is ridiculous. Most of the time you put 15, 20, 30,000 miles on your car if you're commuting back and forth to work. I used to do that. I used to commute back and forth to work 30 minutes a day. I work from home now. The only time I like drive is to like go to the grocery store or like, go to fucking like El Pollo Loco or some shit. Like that's really the only reason why I have to drive now. And it's my car fucking so what, I fill up like once every month and a half, if even that, you know? And I can only imagine like everybody else out there combined, like this is gonna drive demand way, way down, right? Well, so what happens when demand goes down, right? Production stops. Production goes down too because you're not going to produce a commodity, right, when there's no demand for it because you lose money. So production goes way down, right? Not enough gas, not as much gas as there used to be, right? Then demand starts going back up. Lockdown orders get rescinded. People get vaccinated. They can go outside now and not have to worry about fucking dropping dead as much as they used to, right? And, now people start going on vacations, through 2020. People start going to movies and shit like that. Businesses start reopening up. They start sending you back to the office, shit like that. Thankfully, I didn't. Thankfully, I still work from home. Hopefully, that'll be permanent. But still, you know, things start opening up, right, in other states. So now there's, high demand, but still low production. And it takes a little while for the production to ramp back up. That's exactly why there was a gas shortage, right? So where does it come in? How do the Democrats cause that? Where does that part fucking come in there? It doesn't, right? At all, especially since the shit happened under Trump, but even, Trump had nothing to do with that shit either because the president doesn't determine when private companies, you know, refine more gasoline. It has nothing to do with it whatsoever. The president has no like control at all over gas prices. People used to say this shit back during the Bush administration too, right? Oh, there was 2006, gas spiked. Oh, we all need to, it's the president's fault. It's not the fucking president's fault. They said the same thing about Obama also. It's bullshit, you know. And then of course you also have the Middle East conflicts part. I really like that part. Yeah, like the Democrats invaded fucking Afghanistan. The Democrats invaded Iraq. Get the fuck out of here. All right. Nice fucking like blaming the exact opposite of who's really responsible. Let's never forget that, right? You always got to push back against misinformation, okay? The Republicans are the ones who invaded Iraq. They're the ones who invaded Afghanistan. We didn't have to invade Afghanistan after 9/11, okay? The Taliban offered to turn bin Laden over to us. We could have taken that offer, right? And all of that shit would have been avoided. Okay. We wouldn't have had a war for 20 fucking years that we left humiliated, right, in defeat. None of that shit would have happened if we just would have had better leadership. But no, they wanted to drop bombs on people. And that's why. So both of these things, it's like, no, Democrats did not cause either of these fucking things. And the election wasn't stolen. Okay. Proof, because look at this proof of fraudulent election. Trump won more blacks, Latinos, and women. So, yeah, right. Does that, why does that matter? What matters is how many votes overall were there. And, right, in key states, the electoral college went to Biden. Yes. The popular vote went to Biden by like what, 8 billion votes. Too bad that doesn't, people don't actually give a shit about the popular vote. People don't actually care about who gets more votes. It's more about like who gets more fucking real estate on a map. I don't know why that shit works. Ridiculous all the way around. And this is a perfect example of outrage posting. This is just being spread around so that despicable, deplorable Duck and his friends can get their hate on for a few minutes, get that endorphin rush, you know, and feel better about themselves because, I don't know, they're triggering the libs or some shit. Complete and total fucking bullshit, right? Anyway, what else we got here? Let's see. Here's one from a few days ago. This is from England, I think, from the UK. Very good subreddit that I frequent all the time. Noah Get the Boat. It's got all kinds of ridiculous racist hate in there. I highly recommend it to everybody. This is just sickening. UK Muslim Labour peer Lord Ahmed found guilty of sexual assault of boy and attempted rape of girl. Right. Why does this qualify as outrage posting? First off, in the title, because this actually comes from the Daily Mail in the UK, which the Daily Mail is like fucking the equivalent of, like, they're one step above the National Enquirer, is what they are, right? Daily Mail posts trash. They used to have in their newspaper a centerfold spread. Like, I'm not even kidding. I don't know if they still even have a newspaper. I mean, I don't live in the UK, so I don't know. But for years and years and years, they had a centerfold of, like, scantily clad women in the middle of their newspaper. There's supposed to be an actual newspaper with news, and it's like, no, it's a fucking tabloid, right? And people take the shit seriously because in the United States, nobody knows that it's a tabloid because we don't get it here. So they see these stories and they think they're fucking real. And it's like, okay, so there probably is some truth, that probably did happen. I'm not saying it's not real. Excuse me, I have to burp. Thank you. Right. Here's the thing. Why does it say Muslim labor peer? Why does it say that? Right. You have a picture of the guy. You can see what his ethnicity is. Right. Why does it say Muslim? It could just say Labour peer Lord Ahmed found guilty of sexual assault of boy and attempted rape of girl, right? If, for example, Matt Gaetz, right, gets, indicted for, let's say if this were to happen, if he were to get indicted and convicted of, you know, rape of a 17-year-old girl, right? Oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, you brought me a drink. I love you so much. Thank you. I have the best wife in the world, guys. Thank you. Love you too. Thanks. Anyway, but if, for example, Matt Gaetz were to be indicted and convicted of, what do they call that? Child trafficking, child sex trafficking, and rape of a 17-year-old girl, would the headline say Christian Matt Gaetz convicted of child sex trafficking? Would it say that? Matt Gaetz is a Christian, is he not? I mean, I see him all the time talking about God and shit because he knows that that's where his constituents are. Would it say that? No, it would just say Matt Gaetz convicted of child sex trafficking. If that were to happen, that's what it would say. But here they felt the need to throw that word Muslim in there. Why? Because it's designed to piss people off. That's what it is. It's so that people like user Josh Fry 5 up here can take a screenshot of it, put it on Reddit, and say that it's sickening, and get all of his other chud friends to hate on Muslims for 2 minutes. That's exactly what's going on, folks. Right. Okay. Here's a comment as an example here. We have a comment on George Floyd, right? So I don't know if you guys saw this the other day. George Floyd's niece was shot at home while she was sleeping. This happened just a couple of days ago, unfortunately. And the actual context of the story doesn't really matter too much. Apparently, it was I wasn't able to see who actually was responsible. It wasn't a police officer. It was like a drug shooting or some shit like that outside, and then like the bullet went through the wall and hit her. You know, so it wasn't like somebody firing into her apartment or anything like that. It was just like random fucking people shooting guns in the sky or something. Mostly, I think it may have even have been that. I'll have to look it up, but there's, every New Year's you always get crazy people shooting fucking guns into the sky because they're crazy and idiots and they don't understand that like bullets come back down, right? You always get that kind of thing. It may have been one of those, but all I know is that she was in her bedroom and she got hit by a fucking bullet, and apparently it messed her up pretty bad, like messed up one of her lungs, but she's not dead. So you would see it, and that's doubly tragic because this is, George Floyd was a victim, right, of police brutality, who was a very famous case, and it's like, this family can't get a break. It's pretty fucking horrible, right? Why am I calling this outrage posting? Because this post here is not outrage posting. This is, somebody's actually trying to have some compassion here, losing faith in humanity every day. This person who posted this is actually trying to be compassionate and say, hey, this is fucked up. Hey, we need to do something about this, right? We just have random children just randomly being fucking shot in their own homes. It's like you're not even safe in your own house, for crying out loud. A bullet could just fall out of the sky and fuck you up, right? But the outrage part comes in the reactions to it. Here's a comment on George Floyd on this very, you know, post on Reddit. You can see Fuzzy White Boy 420 is actually, trying to express some compassion here. The world is fucked. Whatever your opinion on George Floyd, his family has nothing to do with it, especially an innocent 4-year-old girl. Mr. Flow System replies back to him, George Floyd was a lifelong criminal that did some pretty awful things. If your opinion about him isn't very negative, you're a shitty person, bottom line. Don't waste your breath trying to tell me that a person who held a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach isn't a piece of shit who deserved to die. What does that have to do with his niece being shot by a stray bullet? Nothing. Right? So it's not even, it doesn't even have to be a post that somebody specifically posts in order to spread hate. All it has to have is someone who's controversial, right? Someone who's been in the news, someone who's black. That's all it really needs to be. And these little fucking parasites come out of the woodwork to like spread racist hate on it, right? Here's another one. I got a whole bunch of those from fucking other comments, right, on that particular post. Waiting for the next protest. Considering that nothing is said about the shooter, not even why they were there, you can absolutely be sure that they are black, maybe an acquaintance. Black Lives Matter. Oh, wait. There you go, folks. It's like, oh, okay. We can't talk about how it's horrible that a 4-year-old girl is critically fucking shot and injured in her own bedroom, right? We have to bring like race and politics into it, right? And these little worms come out and use it to get their hate on. That's what I'm talking about. This is also outrage posting. This sort of, it's all about the comments section. It's like, people post this stuff and they want to get a reaction for it. But the problem is it's not even people who even post things that like they have the intent of doing something positive. Like in this case, the intent of the reason why that was posted was to try to do something positive, right? Was to try to spread some compassion and spread some, some goodwill. and like try to like, hey, this is a problem, we need to solve it. And instead, you know, these little fucking rodents come out and like, projectile diarrhea their fucking hate all over everything because there's no getting away from it, right? Uh, Another one, shot by the cops, shot most likely by a black since the news and all over shot most likely by a black since the news isn't all over it, headlining white man shoots black. So you get that. Got to bring your race, got to bring your politics into it. What's the implication here? The underpinning here is that, oh, the Black Lives Matter doesn't really matter because they don't care when black people kill other black people. That's what they're really trying to say. They're taking this opportunity of a little girl who was like critically injured in her fucking bedroom by a stray bullet, something that everyone in the country should be against. No one is in favor of children being shot, right? They're taking that, and because it was the niece of a controversial, famous black person who was a victim of police brutality, turning it into a method by which they can spread racist hate. I got a bunch of those, but I'm not gonna. That's enough of that shit, right? Just to kind of give you, let's see. Here's just one that's just straight up. I labeled this racist outrage. That's what this one's called. Okay, here we go. Look at the headline here. Black thief steals car and ends up running over kid. Black kid's family wants to blame the white car owner. Right? That do you see the problem here? Why does it say, because if you look at the title of the actual thing they posted, the actual title of the article says family of teen run over by stolen car, one owner who had vehicle stolen held responsible for death. Doesn't say who the race of the people, does it? It doesn't say the race of the family of the teens that stole the car were black and the guy that owns the car was white. Doesn't say that at all. If you read this article, which maybe I'll put it down in the chat after this, right? I have to look it up. If you read the article, it's not race baity at all. It's not an outrage post article whatsoever. It really is about greedy lawyers. How the greedy fucking lawyer of this family convinced them to sue the owner of the car that their kids stole because he left the keys in the ignition. Right. And which admittedly is going to go fucking nowhere because it's like, hey, you stole my car. I'm not responsible for what you fucking did with it. So that's not going to go anywhere. Right. But why did user Garfield Tiger on Reddit feel the need to throw the word, to emphasize the race of the thief? Right. Make that a little bigger. And then that the owner is a white person because it makes the white person a victim. Right. That's what it is, right? It takes away you're forgetting that the thief here is a kid, right? So what really happened in this case was that two children, like one was 10 and one was like 12, went into a car and they were playing in it. And it had the keys in it and they turned it on. And then, it went out of control, right? They were playing in the car. They're children, okay? Kids don't fucking steal a car on. What are they gonna go steal it and sell it and chop it up and shit like that? Get the fuck out of here. They're playing in the car, right? And they accidentally, whatever, it got too far, right? And one of the kids fell out of the door and got ran over and died, right? That's what happened. It's an accident, okay? And and it's like, yeah, okay, maybe the guy shouldn't have left his keys in the car, but they shouldn't have fucking like been playing in a stranger's car. Ultimately, I mean, it's like he's not responsible, but then again, they're children. You can't blame children for doing children things that children do because they're kids. They don't fucking know. I did plenty of stupid shit when I was a kid. I stuck a fork in a light socket for crying out loud when I was a kid because I didn't know. Luckily I didn't electrocute myself to death. I almost drank pool acid when I was a kid. This is a true story. You know, we used to make hydrochloric acid bombs when I was a child. Right? This is the kind of shit kids did in the 80s when they were bored. All right. You get a soda bottle, you put hydrochloric pool acid in it, and then you get a bunch of aluminum foil and you make a ball out of the foil and you stick that in the soda bottle, cap it real fast, and what happens is that as the foil dissolves in the acid, the bottle expands and it explodes, and it's as loud as dynamite. This huge explosion, and then this toxic cloud of fucking gas will fly up, and you have to make sure that shit doesn't get on you because it'll fucking burn you. Right? We used to do this for fun. Yeah, this is how smart I was as a kid. And somebody left a bottle of this outside, and since hydrochloric acid is green, and the bottle was fucking Mountain, it was a Mountain Dew bottle. I thought it was Mountain Dew, and I was gonna drink it. And my friend had the good sense to tell me to sniff it first, and it was hydrochloric acid. I would have burned myself to fucking death. Okay, this is stupid shit that kids do. So no, you can't blame children for doing something dumb like this. This is just what fucking happens. I do want to talk a little bit about Matt Walsh because Matt Walsh is sort of like the asshole king of the outrage shit posters, right? Every single thing this guy does is basically him trying to gin up outrage, and it's because it's a pretty good business model. That's what it is. You piss people off, right? They share your content for you, and then that just brings more people into your fold, and then they get pissed off and they share more of your content, and it becomes this sort of self-perpetuating sort of machine of just outrage and bullshit, right? And this guy has managed to create like a fucking little media empire over it. All Matt Walsh talks about is how he hates trans people. That's his entire shtick nowadays. Like, you know, just hates trans people and he hates gay people and shit like that over and over and over. You know, like if you go to his fucking blog or website or YouTube channel or whatever, like 90% of his shit is all about trans people. This thing right here, this was in September. He went to a school board in order to yell at them, right? We'll only watch about half of this. I'm not going to go because after you get past the actual school board part, it just turns into bullshit, and I'm not going to worry about that. But I do want to take it from the beginning because I want him to, because he does a pretty good job of setting up, right, how this entire thing that he's doing right here is just like, he kind of straight out admits it that it was all just bullshit, that it was a stunt, you know. So let's play this. This is Matt Walsh talking about the Loudoun County School Board. I don't want to put words into the man's mouth. Let's let him speak for himself here. Here we go.
Well, it was a long time coming, not weeks, but really years in the making, as I have revealed to you in some vulnerable and emotionally honest moments on this show recently, that I have long desired to be a resident of the state of Virginia. I've always felt deep down that I really was Virginian, even back when I was living a lie, identifying with the state that was assigned to me at birth. But finally, yesterday,
Yep, got to throw in a little bit of, can't let that go without throwing in a little bit of transphobic hate there, right? Like your state is the same thing as your, gender identity or whatever. So, in case anybody, forgot Matt Walsh hates trans people, it's there in the very first, 10 seconds or whatnot. 20 seconds, I guess. Moving on.
I was able to make the official transition and become a legal resident of Virginia when I signed a lease to rent a woman's basement for $1 a month. It was a little more than I wanted to spend, but I decided to splurge a little bit, and it was worth it because I'm now at peace with myself. I feel at home in my body and in my state.
So let's just comment on that, though. So he is straight up admitting it right here. He didn't live in Virginia, right? He is renting a woman's basement for $1, right? So in real life, he doesn't actually live there. He's just doing this so that he can be a resident. Okay, specifically, and he's admitting it. He's admitting it right here that this is the entire reason why why he did this is so that so that he can be a resident of Virginia and then be allowed to speak at this school board, right? Not even trying to hide it, not even trying to hide that the whole thing's a stunt. Moving on.
And even more importantly, yesterday we had our rally at the Loudoun County School Board in protest of their radical indoctrination of the kids in the district. The turnout was incredible. The energy in the crowd made it feel even bigger than it already was. Unsurprisingly, also, none of the opposition showed up. After sending me threatening messages for weeks, I showed you some of that, some of the things they were saying to me, some of the threats they were making. They all chose to stay home, cooking up their next batch of mean tweets and disgruntled emails, I guess.
That must be really sad, and disappointing for somebody like Matt Walsh because that's his entire business model. I'm pretty sure he really, really wanted to get some video of counter protesters, trying to, so that he could make fun of them and troll them and stuff, get some more outrage clicks, you know. I think also he might be a little disappointed because, it kind of says that maybe the people don't really give that much of a shit about him so much. Maybe you're not generating enough outrage there, Matt Walsh. Maybe you need to say something a little more outrageous in order to get people to hate you more, you know? Um, I don't know. Kind of sounds like he kind of missed those people and really wanted them to be there. No doubt because he would make more money if they actually were, right?
This is a common theme for people on that side. They'll confront you online. Maybe they'll confront you in real life if they can be confident that they'll have you entirely outnumbered. But outside of that, they prefer to stay hidden in the shadows and insulated. This is a
Yeah, that's kind of bullshit, right? Maybe what's more likely is that nobody gave a fuck that you moved to Virginia because they knew it was a bullshit stunt that you're just doing for views, and it was lame and stupid, and everybody knows that you're not actually going to live in Virginia for the rest of your life, or you're not going to live there at all, and they didn't want to, contribute to your like dumb shit stunt. That's most likely what happened. Also, are you gonna bother like if you knew Matt Gates or Matt Walsh was gonna like go speak at a fucking like school board somewhere in a town that you don't live in? Are you gonna like hop on a plane and fly there? Like, no. I'm not gonna waste my money going down there. Like, ultimately, who gives a shit? I don't know. It's just the ego on this guy. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. The fucking ego on this guy to make it think that he's got like, makes it think that he's got like entire like communities of haters that just follow his every fucking movement. You know, that must have been really bad for him to realize it's not true. Anyway,
especially true of the Loudoun County School Board itself. I did end up speaking before the board, and we'll play that clip in a moment. But consider the hoops we had to jump through just to earn an audience with the royal majesties on the school board. As has been much publicized, they required proof of residence. No problem for me as a man who has been a Virginia resident since you were in diapers. I mean, if you're currently still an infant, then that would be true. We had
say that straight up admitting it. He's straight up admitting, hey, the whole reason why I like rent someone's basement out for $1 is so that I can have the ability to speak at the school board, right? Does he have children that go to the school board? That I think if that's a rule, then that is actually a really good rule, because if you don't have children that actually go to the school, then why are you speaking to the board of that school, right? You kind of don't have a dog in the fight if you don't have any kids there, right? So, why should they listen to anything that you have to say if your children are not actually being affected by their policies, right? I can understand that. You shouldn't allow just any random fucking wacko to show up, start spouting a bunch of bullshit about anti-masking and shit like that, which is, kind of what Matt Walsh is going to do here, except it's not anti-masking so much as it is talking about trans, rights. I'm assuming he means like, bathroom rights and shit like that, because These people have never actually gotten over that. They're still fucking talking about that shit, by the way. The whole, like, allowing trans students to use the bathroom that they identify with. They're still harping about that crap, right? So seems like that would be a logical thing to me. Seems like that should be a good policy because it'll keep fucking trolls like Matt, Walsh out. Don't you think? I don't know. Kind of like, it sort of loses the organic, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't hit as hard when you know it's a stunt, but I just like how he just straight up admits that it's a stunt and thinks that people are going to be impressed by it. Moving on.
Had to also present, we had our proof of residence we had to present outside the building. Then they also demanded that we show our IDs as well. And then next we had to empty our pockets and undergo a TSA-style security screening. Already the process to speak at a school board meeting, a public school board meeting, is far more involved and far more secure than the process to vote. And the whole thing felt quite racist to me, frankly.
Yeah, the reason why they're asking them to go through security is because people like Matt Walsh here are giving death threats, right, at these school board meetings. That's why. It's because Proud Boys are showing up at them. It's because, these insane right-winger fucking crazy people are going to these things, and people are getting death threats, right? They're getting doxxed. You've got all these stories about like school board members resigning because of all of the right-wing like threats and hate and stuff like that. And frankly, they want to make sure that someone like you, Matt Walsh, is not going to show up with an AR-15 and murder, 16 or 17 different people. That's why. That's why it's so different. And, you say, okay, well, it's harder to do this than it is to vote. Well, it's because, when you go vote, you can't kill 17 people with your voter registration card, right? That's why. Okay, that's why, right? And, it's because if you get caught lying about voting, you go to prison for years and years and years, right? Look at Dinesh D'Souza. I mean, perfect fucking example. Guy votes for his wife, goes to prison for 5 years, right? Although I don't think he actually served 5 years, but still. Perfect example, right? You have to, that's sort of like, yeah, we already have the safeguards in place when it comes to voting, right? It's much different than going to a public forum like this where you're going to basically spread hate and insult people, as we will see here in a few minutes.
Because it certainly would be called racist if they required all of that outside of a voting booth. And we aren't done yet, because next we were ushered into the...
We can't let that go either. Let's listen to that one more time.
A public school board meeting is far more involved and far more secure than the process to vote. And the whole thing felt quite racist to me, frankly, because it certainly would be called racist if they required all of that outside of a voting booth.
Because you don't have a right to go to a school board meeting. You have a right to vote, right? And there isn't an entire political party which runs half of the country that is making it difficult for you to go to school board meetings the same way that they're making it difficult for people to vote, right? And it's because going to a school board meeting doesn't determine your future or the future direction of the country the way that voting does. Okay? It's because there's political interest in allowing more people to vote, right? You have a right to do it, number one. Okay, well, not so much you would notice, but yes, you do have a right to vote, right? And these are methods by which you prevent people from voting. Okay, well, you don't have a right, like we said, you don't have a right to go to a school board meeting, right? You have to live there. The same thing with voting as well. You do have to live where you say you live in order to register and vote. You can't just come from an out of state and be like, I'm gonna vote here now. No, you have to be a resident, right? When you register, you have to put all the information, right? But when you actually go to vote, It's, the idea is you want as many people to vote as possible. So yeah, you don't have to show your ID. You do have to sign a piece of paper, and if you do it fraudulently, you go to prison, right? I don't see the problem there. Why is that so much different than, requiring residency to go to, to attend this and speak at a, school board meeting? Like, doesn't seem that much different to me. I don't see where the racist part comes in, you know. Then again, I'm not Matt Walsh, and I'm not here to, enrage people to get rage clicks. So,
And we aren't done yet, because next we were ushered into the mostly empty building. And I also have to say, the building where the school board in Loudoun County does its business is enormous, like the size of the Pentagon. No spectators were allowed to sit inside the room with the school board. No one could be in the presence of their highnesses. No one in the public was permitted to attend the public meeting.
yeah, it's because they. The reason why is because of people going and threatening them, right? I'm sure you've all seen those meetings over the last few months of all those people at school boards just like, outside nearly causing riots and shit. This is what's going on at school boards now. They're being targeted essentially, you know. So after like Charlottesville happened a few years ago, like the alt-right and like hate groups and stuff were very much sort of on the rise. And then they kind of got a little too big for their britches, and then they tried to turn it into a national organized movement with Charlottesville, and that just completely backfired, right? And a lot of the hate groups and stuff that were prominent in Charlottesville, things like the Three Percenters, the Oath Keepers, things like, and especially Charlottesville, and then also after the January 6th, a lot of these on a national scale, these groups have kind of what they've done is they've decentralized. So there's no national leadership so much, like things like the Oath Keepers and stuff, right? Not so much anymore. But now you have all of these sort of local regional groups. They didn't go away, right? There's the local groups, stuff like that, and they're targeting things like, you know, smaller rallies, targeting things like local politicians. They're running for office, stuff like that. And they're also targeting school boards. And there's been these, plenty of video. I don't know if you've seen these things. Maybe we'll post some later. Plenty of videos and stories about how Proud Boys and shit, for example, are going to local school board meetings and intimidating people and basically like threatening violence and stuff. And then you have like these anti-mask groups that go and start fucking riots at school board meetings and that kind of thing. And that's what's going on. So yeah, that's why the security is so high, right? That's why they don't allow, entire mobs of people to enter the building and stand there in front of, it's for security reasons. It's for security reasons because of essentially Matt Walsh's fans. Because of people like Matt Walsh are the ones that created this situation where now they've radicalized, you know, millions of people with a daily dose of fucking hate, right? In order to make money. And this is, make no mistake, the reason why Matt Walsh and his ilk do this is to make money. You think Matt Walsh really gives a shit about trans people? Maybe he doesn't like them, but do you think that if he wasn't making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year off of it, that he would be so active against them? Probably not. Probably not, right? He'd probably be, I don't know, talking about some other shit that makes him money instead. It's because it's a cash cow to him. The outrage clicks is that they're a cash cow to him, right? And that's why like every fucking thing the guy says has to do with trans people. It's really just, it's insidious bullshit. And here's the thing, we need to just be aware of it. You can't stop him from doing this. You can't infringe on his freedom of speech, but you got to be aware of it. And you got to make sure that it doesn't, that you don't get radicalized by this type of content, I guess, right? moving on. So let's kind of fast forward a little bit here. I want to see the actual. Here's his actual 60 seconds, right? Let's just start from here. Okay.
And here's what I had to say. I would thank you all for allowing me to speak to you tonight, but you tried not to allow it, yet here I am. Now,
Also, don't forget, Matt Walsh is also like an anti-masker kind of person, right? So that's why he's wearing a mask, and he also complained about the fact that they made him wear a mask. That's like somehow somehow it's like super unjust to like require people to take basic fucking precautions to not spread a deadly disease around. Somehow that's like a bad fucking thing. I'll never understand how that shit got politicized either. Anyway, moving on.
You only give us 60 seconds, so let me get to the point. You are all child abusers. You prey upon impressionable children and indoctrinate them into your insane ideological cult, a cult which holds many fanatical views, but none so deranged as the idea that boys are girls and girls are boys. By imposing
There you go. What did I tell you? You know, it's all anti-trans hate with this guy. They're child abusers somehow. How does that follow? How does it follow the fact that, you know, you're cognizant of trans youth somehow equates to child abuse? Like, doesn't really make, like, if you just sit down and you think about it for half a second, like, where does the abuse part come in? Exactly, right? Is it what? Where? Where does the abuse part come in? Is it when are you forcing young boys to wear dresses and shit like that to act like girls? Is that what you're doing? Are you forcing girls to act like boys anywhere? Are you abusing kids if they don't come out as trans? Is that what's happening? Are they like, you know, psychologically torturing children who are not trans children? Where does it come in? What example do you have? Like what? Is it because you allow trans girls to compete in sports, and that somehow how does that where does the child abuse part come in, right? Where does that, even that, I mean, that could be really the only thing that you could debate about, whether it's fair for a trans, girl to compete in a sport with other, cis girls, right? Non-trans girls, right? We can have that discussion, whether you fall on one side of that or the other. Personally, I think they already have rules for that, don't they? When it comes to trans people in sports, right? They already have rules for that. And I would even, consider giving some ground here and there. Maybe it's not fair that, a boy who's a recently trans girl, who's transitioned, but has not actually like had any, like a trans girl, who has not actually had any hormone therapy or anything like that. Maybe it is a little unfair for her to compete in sports with non-trans. You know what I mean? We can have that discussion, whether one way or the other, whether you support it or you don't support it. But what I'm trying to say is, where does the abuse part come in, right? Where's the part where it's like child abuse, right? Because child abuse means very specific things, right? Child abuse is like, beating a kid, psychologically torturing a kid, right? Verbal abuse, right? Treating them unfairly, not feeding them, shit like that, neglect. This is what child abuse actually means, right? Where does that part, how's the school engaging in that? This is where you got to demonstrate. You can't just fucking say it and then like, then expect everybody to just instantly agree with your opinion, right? But that's what he's doing. He's just throwing it out there without any actual proof, right? Without anything to actually back up what he's trying to say. And then his followers at home are just going to spread it around, for him. They're going to spread it around on social media, get those outrage clicks for him, get more people to like come check out his shit, because that's really his entire business model, is just capitalizing on bigotry and hatred. It's kind of bullshit. We've only got like 30 seconds left here, so let's continue.
This vile nonsense on students to the point even of forcing young girls to share locker rooms with boys. You deprive these kids of safety and privacy. And
why does that share locker rooms with boys, right? So in real life, it would be more abusive for the trans girl to be forced to use the locker room with, non-trans like boys. You know what I'm saying here? Like like that's where the actual abuse comes in. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys remember going to high school, but children are cruel. Children can be extremely cruel and, non-forgiving and violent even, you know. I mean, when I was in high school, it was the 90s. None of this shit was a thing, but there were no, we didn't have any trans students in my high school. We did have a few gay ones, right? The thing about it is that all of the gay people were in the closet because if you came out, you got your ass beat. And this was a normal, ordinary, accepted thing. The teachers wouldn't do anything about it. You know, there were a couple of gay people that I remember that really got it bad, right? Like really bad, constant abuse, and this was just a normal thing. I can only imagine what, like, say, a trans student back in, the 90s when I was in high school, what they would, the shit that they would go through. It would just be like fucking terrible, right? I can only imagine. And, yeah, attitudes are much more, um, you know, towards that kind of thing is very much more acceptable nowadays, but not really, you know. Yeah, okay, now you'll get teachers defending you and shit now if there's people bullying you because you're not straight, because if you're trans or you're gay or something, right? But I don't know, man. All of this controversy kind of shows that it's not 100%. And depending on, the kid, especially from the other students, you're probably going to live with just daily abuse if that was you, constantly, right? And you can only imagine like living, being in the locker room. I mean, teenage boys being what they are, you can only imagine the kind of shit that you'd have to put up with there. I mean, probably just daily fucking violence, daily ass beatings, right? Constant fucking name calling and all of that stuff. I can't even imagine it, to be honest. This is one thing that, is beyond my experience as a, cis male, right? Straight cis male, almost straight, almost white cis male is what I am. It's beyond my experience. I can't even imagine how fucking terrible it would be. Somehow Matt fucking Walsh thinks that it's the other way around. And I would just like to know, like, where is he getting that from? Is he getting stories of this from people? No, it's bullshit that he's making up. That's where he's getting it from. Moving on.
And something more fundamental too, which is truth. If education is not grounded in truth, then it is worthless. Worse, it is poison. You are poison.
Yeah, the actual truth is that trans students are students too, and they deserve to be able to go to school, and they deserve to be able to go to school and be, you know, and not be abused on a daily fucking basis, right? And not have to face hate from people like Matt Walsh. That's the actual truth, right? You know, he's forgetting about that. It's like, what about these are the actual real victims here are the trans kids who have to put up with this type of fucking bigotry and will have to for the rest of their lives. Let's not forget that it's not like once they become adults, all of this sort of like bigotry and hatred goes away. No. For the rest of their lives, they're going to have to put up with assholes like Matt Walsh fucking with them constantly, right? And every, after they graduate, when they go to college, when they try to get jobs, there's always going to be a Matt Walsh there fucking with them. Those are the real actual victims. And that's the real truth is that these people don't deserve that because of any choice that you make. You know, people say that, your sexual orientation isn't a choice. Well, you do have the choice to express it or not. You have the choice to remain in the closet, or you have the choice to like actually express what you feel, right? And you can't blame people for staying in the closet. You can't. When they face shit like this, some people are not, some people calculate that it's safer for them to stay in the closet and not have to deal with this type of abuse, right? Um, but for the people that, it's like they don't deserve, it shouldn't have to be like that. You shouldn't have to hide who you are. You shouldn't have to, live in fear, right, of people like Matt Walsh, inspiring some fucking hatred. Because that's what's going to happen. Someone's going to take this video, they're going to spread it around. It's going to get into like, you know, somebody's hands who's maybe not mentally all the way there, and they're going to go a little crazy, and who knows what might happen. It might actually lead to actual violence, right? Whether it's like a school shooting, maybe, or maybe it's like fucking just teenagers decide to go out and beat up a bunch of, trans kids or some shit. That's the ultimately, the result of this type of racist hate is violence and death. Let's turn this shit off. Okay, it's almost over, but you know what? Fuck Matt Walsh. I'm done with him. Right? Let's get rid of this. Anyway, guys, yeah, I hope that, why are we talking about this? Before we end it, it's so that we can identify when it happens. And it's easy to even forget that this is a thing. Somebody posts, for example, a picture of crime or someone, something unjust happening, and it's easy to dog pile onto it. And it's you forget that all of this shit sometimes it's being posted. There's an agenda behind it, and it's like you know to prevent yourself from being radicalized, to prevent you from mistakenly participating in this sort of groupthink. It's good to be able to recognize the agendas behind this type of content, especially on social media. Anyway, guys, I gotta go. I got an appointment here I gotta keep. Thank you all for joining. Jeannie B, hey, thanks for joining. You guys are great. I really love you all. Thank you, Lewis the Hedgehog. It's awesome to see you every week. Adversary Fandon, great to see you too. Holy shit, you have COVID, dude. I'm sorry. I hope you're okay. Danacat, great to see you. Jeannie B, great to see you as always. And I gotta get going here. But before I do, I have to do my daily ending stuff here. Let's see. Thankfully, I don't have any bad stuff in my search history for you guys to look at. This is my webcomic, hwanja.com. Why is the picture not loading? There it goes. Please check me out. Check out my webcomic if you guys get a chance. It's always great to see people there. If you like what I do and you want to see more of my artwork, I have a DeviantArt site. This is where you can get all of the artwork that we do in the stream. Thank you all so much there. If you like what I do and you want to, support me monetarily, I do have a SD shop that you can buy stuff from. This is my SD shop. I don't know why that's not loading. Come on, load. There we go. My SD shop, feel free, if you like what I do and you want to buy some stuff, you want to give me some money, you can support me that way. And then I also have another YouTube channel called UCD Videos, where I post things like toy reviews and stuff like that, non-political content. So if you want to see any of this, please, it's also down in the chat. Anyway, guys, I gotta get out of here. So thank you all again. I put the links down in the chat for all of my social media, stuff like that. Thank you all again. Thank you, Jeannie B. Thank you, Lewis the Hedgehog, as always. Thank you, Dynacat. And thank you, Adversary Fandon. You guys are the best. I'm thinking I might do another stream Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. I'm thinking I might make that a normal thing, and then we'll just try to stream for 2 days a week now. But we'll see how it goes. But if we don't do that, we will most definitely will be back next Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right, guys, I gotta hit the road. Adios.